one thread that I read, there was talk about plus or minus 2 degrees, which is a huge amount of play. So let's have a look at how this one works, and then talk about what you could potentially do to check that yours is correct. Hey, welcome back. So I have done a video before on the accessories that I use for my Felder CF741 combination machine. One of which was this short crosscut fence that attaches to the slider sort of at the midpoint or down one end, depending on how long your slider is. I don't tend to use this crosscut fence that much. I do when I've got shorter pieces I'm working on, like on the shaper or on the saw. I'll just grab this little fence, and I'm sure I've mentioned how this is something I use with this all the time. I also do use it quite a bit where I need to work with two different angles. They're not complementary angles. So, I might have the main crosscut fence on the outrigger set up for one angle and this fence set up for a different angle, and be able to go through and do a bunch of different stuff. And so this fence is really handy for that. Recently, I've been on the Felder Owners Group website, which is a group that is there for owners or potential owners of Felder equipment, where they can get ideas and help from each other with regards to their equipment. And whilst I was there recently, it came to my attention that a lot of people are actually having issues with the short crosscut fence, where after they've got it set up and all the rest of it and take it off, when they put it back on, it's not going back on at 90 degrees. And I personally haven't had that issue, those problems. And looking at the parts of the short crosscut fence, I don't really understand how it couldn't go back on in the same position each time, at least to an accuracy that is acceptable in my opinion. So I just wanted to show you today, by making a couple of cuts, how mine is actually accurate. I want to bring to your attention how I go about putting it on, and it can be a bit of a pain in the ass, to be honest. Just sliding it on and off, for example, is a bit of a pain in the backside. But I'll show you how I go about doing it in such a way that I believe sort of helps keep it accurate each time. And if you do those things and you find that it's still not accurate or repeatable in its setup, then there's a few things that I think you should have a look at to make sure that both the parts are right and things are there, nothing's missing, that could potentially, I guess, stop it from going back correctly, or allow a bunch of play such that, well, like in the one thread that I read, there was talk about plus or minus 2 degrees, which is a huge amount of play. So let's have a look at how this one works, and then talk about what you could potentially do to check that yours is correct. Okay, so I'm gonna put a mark on there so that I know which edge is going where. Yeah, so let's just take this off and basically it's a bit of a pain. I think I said that in my other video. It's a bit of a pain to take off and put on because of this extrusion here that has to go over the edge of the slider here. So, you know, a little bit fiddly, excuse me, for sure. So this kip lever, I like to try and get it almost tight. Pull that back obviously to the stop that I've got, almost tight, and then I'll push the little lever down here to register it at 90 degrees, and I'll pull that back while I just snug that up. And that's sort of it. So now if I make a second cut, I'm just going to make a cut, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch in, thereabouts. Okay, bring you in here. Let me just try and get you a little bit. That's better. Right, so that, okay. So all I'm going to do here is measure, that's 13 point, if you can see that, I don't know, probably not, oh no, 13 millimeters. I was a bit off with my 3/4 inch. And that's 13 millimeters. So I've taken this short crosscut fence off, put it back on, and it is over, what sort of length? 300 and just over 358 millimeters. So 14 inches, and it is dead on, absolutely dead on. So at least with my setup, there is nothing wrong. And like I said, looking at the way things are, the way this works, I don't really understand how it could not go back on in that same position. So the first thing we want to check in our setup is that the T-nut is seated correctly. There are a couple of countersunk holes in the slider. Mine is a 10-foot slider, and so it actually has, and it might be the case on the 8-foot slider too, I don't know, but mine has 2 positions where this fence can be mounted. So where you get the once you've decided where you're going to set it up, bring the T-nut down, and the grub screws here need to seat perfectly in those countersunk holes to ensure that that doesn't actually move anywhere. Snug them down nice and tight. And now I know that that T-nut is not going to move. So that's that. The little flip stop, which registers the fence at 90 degrees, there's maybe a little bit of play in that. But again, you know, if you pull the fence back when you're tightening things up, then realistically there shouldn't be any variation. So, and the next thing we want to do is when we thread, problems here. I told you it was a pain, could be. Once we thread that kip lever into the T-nut, I'm going to push the flip stop down so that I can register the crosscut fence against that nice and tight. And then I'm going to just tighten everything down, snug everything down. So that should by rights be dead on, just like it was before now. If, like I said, you're still having issues, I want you to check these things. So I take this off. Okay, so these brackets have a dovetail machined into them right here, and obviously the opposing part of the dovetail in the back part of the fence. And what actually happens is when this goes, I want to get it the right way around. So when this is tightened down into the T-nut, this part, it actually pulls the block down, obviously, onto the table. And you'll note too that back here, if you look at this, it's actually quite a bit proud, if you like, of the bottom of the extrusion here. But down here, you need to note this. There's a Teflon sort of tape or something on here, and when that's tightened down, then it's actually, I'm going to say, the block itself is just shy of the bottom of that tape. So it should really snug down and pull the block to the fence, or pull the fence to the block, I guess, if you like, and ensure that when that comes down, when that's tightened down, that this is super tight between the block and this, and that's quite tight there, just with the one kip lever done up. So the same applies to the part that the flip stop registers on. And so make sure that, you know, there's nothing on the surfaces of those dovetail parts, nothing that could stop it sort of pulling down, and that you have those that tape, if you like, that Teflon-y sort of whatever it is tape that lifts the fence off the table, obviously protects things from getting scratched up probably, but it's important that that's there, or the dovetail joint won't pull together properly when you tighten those kip levers down. Now, if you've done all those things, everything seems to be right, and there's still a bunch of play, then I think you really need to give Felder a call, because there must be something seriously wrong. Perhaps you're missing some parts, or something has been machined wrong, came out of the CNC wrong, or someone was having a funny day in the factory. Anyway, so I hope this has helped those that are having issues with their short crosscut fence. I find it pretty useful. I don't use it all the time, but when I do need it, I do like to use it, and I don't have any issues with it. So I hope this has helped, and if you like the video, please hit like, and if you haven't subscribed, please do that. We'll see you in the next video.